institutional philosophy. Does anybody know what that is even referring to, and have you had any confusing experiences with that? I know you have back there. An institutional philosophy. Different hospitals, especially academic hospitals, have different philosophies on how they're going to treat something. But before I hit that, I'm going to read you something here. When I talk to you about understanding the illness and understanding the vocabulary and the lingo and all of that, and now we're crossing into institutional philosophy, I'm going to read you. This is a newsletter that we had done for the center here when it opened, and I have a column here, and I'm going to read to you this first paragraph, because this is the beginning of when I realized there is such a thing. One of the things that made me realize there's such a thing as institutional philosophies and different perspectives on things. It was a moment I will never forget. My husband Dave was on a respirator. He miraculously survived a massive pulmonary embolism. And I was asked what I wanted to do next. I could give Dave a blood thinner, which might put him at risk for a brain bleed, or give him a green fill filter, a device implanted in the groin to catch blood clots, and hope that none would get through. I felt like I was being asked to decide how I was going to kill my husband. I agonized over this decision. I phoned several world-renowned physicians from top brain tumor institutions where Dave had previously been treated. All of them had a different opinion. Okay. Many of the institutions take positions on how they handle things. And I could see the logic in every one of them. Like, there wasn't a bad thing anyone said. I could see both sides. But my husband was unconscious, and I had to make this decision, and it was a life or death decision. Okay. So one doctor felt, you cannot, it can cause more brain bleeds, and the other one was like, you got to stop these things from going there. They were just all crazy, and I had to make the decision. I changed my mind like 3 times. I did it, reversed it, did it, reversed it. Wound up with actually an in-between decision. I mean, we put the green fill filter in, and then later on, when he was in rehab for the pulmonary embolism, they put him on a low dose of something that was not what the original blood thinner was. So, but we had to work through all that and make that decision. And, thankfully, he never had another blood clot situation, so we made the right decision for him. But I'm going to give you another story about, this is when I really learned about institutional philosophy. We were at Sloan. Dave had gone through all of his radiation, and he was on Temodor at the time. And the tumor board met. His tumor was starting to reoccur. And the tumor board met, and the radiation oncologist and the neuro-oncologist had different opinions with each other about what was happening. And I don't remember all the medical terms, but there's certain things that are under the line and over the line, and anyway. Finally came to the point where, the tumor was growing more. And the neuro-oncologist there was very strongly for stronger chemotherapy and did not believe in doing the gamma knife. And her opinion was, we see what happens later. This was their institution protocol, was going chemo and not gamma. The other institution where my husband's brain surgery was with the neurosurgeon of the century, you have to have gamma knife. And then then I'm in touch with their radiation oncologist, and their institutional philosophy was gamma knife is the next thing. Both of these things are very viable options, and both of this was good advice on both parts. But we had to make a choice, and we made the choice to go with the gamma knife. It was I remember we were at a family party, and I was sitting in the car. I went outside in the car having these conversations, with Arkansas on, they're like, you got to get out here in 3 days. And they're like, you're not having gamma knife, you're going to have chemo. It's confusing sometimes. But we made educated decisions. And when I tell you that you can disagree and you can make choices, I don't mean frivolously. I mean really understanding what those choices are, really learning about them, really asking the doctors, what are the pros, what are the cons? What's the risk? And then you talk about it and you choose. Again, you don't disagree frivolously because you don't like the sound of it. You have to have really solid reason on why you want to go where you're going to go. So that was an example of an institutional philosophy, and it's very different. There's some protocols that are pretty much the same everywhere, and then there's other things, depending on what it is, that are very different from place to place.